Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. This is episode 24 and I'm your host Ben. And with me today I have Richard.
Hey, I'm here. First time back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Do you miss me every time?
Every time, baby.
Or are you used to it now?
Well, we've got into a little rhythm of things, but you used to be, we haven't done a week. When was the last time you did like a weekly podcast?
Oh, a long time.
It's been a long time, hasn't it, since we did weekly, the two of us.
I've got
life.
Busy professional executive lifestyle now. Difficult.
Absolutely. I can understand. And with us also is Rob.
Hello.
Very professionally stayed. I've got to say, very professional. You stayed quiet there throughout until I introduced you, which some podcasts are really freaking anal about. Like that person can't speak until they're introduced.
The thing is, you were talking, so I tried not to interrupt.
It's very polite.
Yeah, I have my manners mostly, ish.
So if you're watching live, or even if you're not, I'm going to tell you, we're recording it on 3 o'clock ish, 3:30 on Easter Sunday, but to keep the tradition up of we don't like Christian holidays or in any way follow anything to do with Christianity, it would seem, because we're always on a Sunday, even when it's Easter. I love that.
Let's
Alternatively,
temper that slightly. I don't have a problem with Christian holidays. I particularly enjoy Christmas, but
alternatively, we're recording it on Easter Sunday because it's the weekend, and we're trying to keep to our schedule of having a podcast out on a weekend.
This is also true. One of the options was Monday, and I was like, no, we'll be late.
We must be sacrilegious. That was Ben's view, I believe.
I do not believe in secular holidays. This is true. I'm dead against them for some reason.
Are you using that word right?
I'm not sure I am, actually.
I don't think you are.
No? Okay. I could be using that wrong.
I think that's the opposite of what you mean.
Not, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody can you clarify? Can you put secular in a sentence for me, please? Because you're not 100% on this, are you?
No, I've painted myself into a corner there.
I love to learn definitions of words, and I use them correctly. I could be using that incorrectly. This is very true.
Secular, not connected with religious or spiritual matters.
Did you Google to find secular by any chance? Because that's exactly what I just did.
So I have it the wrong way. I had the right context, but had it backwards, basically.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Yes. Good to know. Good to know. So non-secular would be the correct. That would mean religious.
I'm going to say, shall we move away from the contentious topics and just discuss video games?
This isn't contentious. This is just talking about the definition of a word.
Yeah, Rob. We need to
not yet. That's what's next.
You look in the show notes.
When does the video games coverage start, guys?
If you look in the show notes, you see it's 0.5 on the agenda. So I'm just come on, we have to hit that. No, I'm only kidding, obviously. How are you guys doing? Have you had a good week or two? What have you been watching? Have you caught up with anything? I haven't seen Falcon Winter Soldier 3 yet, so no spoilers.
I have. I feel lost. It might be because I'm old and I forget everything now, but
he does.
There's a few characters coming into that series. I'm thinking I should probably know them. I've seen all of the Marvel movies, obviously, but yeah, a couple of people I'm thinking don't know if that's new. It sounds like they're explaining why they're there and why I should know them, but I've got no memory of it at all.
I'm really curious now. I'll have to watch that today.
Such as who?
No, you can't say, because you can spoil it for me, wouldn't it?
Spoil it.
So yeah, you can't say, but I've got to check.
Is it the person in the middle or the person right at the end?
Shut up! Don't be mean. I haven't seen
both of them.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah, the person at the end I could get you having maybe not seen as much of. The person in the middle, what? That's like.
I think I know the two characters that you're talking about. Probably, I'm gonna guess Agent 13 and Zemo. I haven't even seen the episode, but I'm just guessing they're both introduced in this episode. All right, one of them? Did I get one of them?
I'm just not going to say.
All right. But I know they're both going to be in the show, so it's kind of like I was just assuming that was those characters. But
who's Agent 13? Is that the
Sharon Carter's granddaughter? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you are right about one of them.
Okay, right.
Two of them.
No, not really.
What do you mean? Zemo isn't in it?
No, okay. This is a discussion we shall have after the fact, because then I can explain why I'm right.
I'm still waiting on that proof from last week, by the way, regarding something. I remember you were like, "I'm going to."
Oh no, I watched it, and I haven't provided you with footage. But at no point do Mara and Batman meet throughout the entirety of the movie.
I'd forgotten.
Until the nightmare sequence.
I'm still not sure.
Like I forget. Yes,
I'm not sure you're correct. I'm not sure you are. No, I don't believe you.
You wouldn't believe me if I had photos in front of you. Say Photoshop, fake news.
Yeah,
but that's what you do. So I could get Amber Heard and Ben Affleck on this podcast.
I might believe,
but I might confirm it, and you would still
just
say
to be
no.
clear. I might believe Ben Affleck. I wouldn't believe Amber Heard. But just
probably.
FYI.
Probably a good
but
to not believe anything she says.
This is the most impenetrable start to the show we've ever done.
For you, but not for our loyal listeners from last week who understand what we're talking about. So that's fine. Yeah,
Just for your amusement, when you said Amber Heard, my first thought was, why was Amber Rudd in that?
Amber Rudd.
For anyone that remembers Amber Rudd,
I think she was a model in the UK, wasn't she, Amber Rudd?
Not quite. She was the Home Secretary.
Oh, I know politics, me. Fucking hell.
I didn't know who she was either, mate. To be fair, but that's hilarious. That is just a brilliant model. Home sec. You couldn't get further apart on the career spectrum there, could you? That's incredible, amazing. Right, I think should we just get into the news then? Because we've got quite a few juicy topics here, which I think we might go off and have some discussion on. So, and we also really want to talk about Outriders. So. Let's start off with the news.
Spoilers.
The three kind of news points I've got at the top here of the list are all connected. It's all to do basically with Sony has officially confirmed that they're closing down the PS3, Vita, and PSP stores this summer. So the digital stores will be closed. And this was a shock to quite a lot of people, including a couple of developers that were planning on releasing games on the Vita, which they now can't do. Or one of them, I believe, reading the story was really interesting, is going to try and rush it out ahead of the store closure. And the other one's just like, no, we're done then. And they haven't even been told, right? So these are developers that would clearly be working with Sony and PlayStation, because they're not early days in either of the games. They're working with them to get the game released, and they've got deals in place for the distribution. And they weren't even told ahead of time that this was happening, which is just incredible to me. That's the maddest thing.
Why do they need to tell the developers when the news will tell them for them?
Because it wouldn't
That's
be
clearly the logic, right?
I mean, you're not wrong. It's what they did. However, I think if I was putting resources into creating a port for a piece of hardware I was no longer going to be able to distribute my game on, I'd probably like to know. Just it's a bit 100%. More in advance to save me some money and time and all of that. But
and just to keep devs on side. Do you remember when Microsoft were really terrible at that? The whole Super Meat Boy thing, and they used
remind me of the Super Meat Boy thing. I kind of know.
They just had a really bad. Super Meat Boy came out on Summer of Arcade, didn't it?
Yes.
One of the early ones.
Yes.
And they famously fell out over it. The relationship with PR for Microsoft was really terrible for indies, and they had a bad rep for it for a long time. So that's where the when Xbox One launched and they had that big show of indie developers, that was all to kind of repair the damage of their reputation previously on 360.
I think they were quite hardball, weren't they?
Yeah.
And it was like there was lots of fees to get games out, and like you had to do this testing and that testing, and they made it very difficult, didn't they, to get stuff onto the platform, and like we're going to own all the rights now and all kinds of deals like that.
Stuff like that, and just not being very communicative. So it's surprising to see Sony drop the ball pretty hard when they rely on the same dev community.
I don't know. I mean, this doesn't feel like dropping the ball. This feels very much like this has been Sony's message on old games, back and pack games for a long time now. That they believe, I can't remember what it was, someone like Jim Ryan who came out, I think, and said, isn't it lovely? Yeah, everybody wants back and pack games, wants previous generation of games on the hardware, but nobody uses them. So they're there, and then they're never played, and they supposedly have the stats to back that up. And I think his response was, if you want to play PS3 games, you should buy a PS3, sort of thing. And it was like, right, okay, but I don't think this is really. It's not a surprise, but it's not a shock. it's maybe a little bit of a surprise that they've still doubled down on doing things this way, considering that we've seen how successful Microsoft's program of back compatibility has been, and like beyond just the games, but now what they're doing on the new Series X and S hardware, with the enhancements. Like these guys, they really know, don't they, that there is value to maintaining this library and this heritage of historical titles. Now, I was really looking forward to this discussion because I want to know what Rob thinks on this, because Rob isn't a big looking back gamer. He's much more newest, latest, best. You know, wants games to show off the hardware. We've often talked about stuff like this, Rob. So you're frowning a bit now, but you don't play a lot of old games, is what
He's
I'm saying.
only about 15 years old. He hasn't got that frame of reference.
12 to 14, something like that.
I literally have my 3DS with generations of Pokemon games sat in front of me on my desk as we speak.
Okay.
I'm not completely newest, latest, best.
But isn't that like, because that is your number one franchise? So that's a bit different, because it's like, yeah, I'm like that with certain things. So I would want. I remember for a while, for example, the Star Wars movies. I had Star Wars movies on everything: VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. I owned it across just because I'm a huge fan. Yeah. So that's slightly different. So I'm more curious about
I also regularly play Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty Black Ops 3 because of the zombies mode.
But it's not the best shooter, no? Just to be clear on that. No.
I'm not even going to entertain that one. So, yeah, I always want backwards compatible. I don't see why any machine now that cites itself as being powerful cannot emulate a previously released machine that is less powerful than it. I do not see why there is any sort of problem. I'm sure there are many reasons why. I'm sure there are. But there are ways to do virtual machines. There are ways to get that done, because the architecture cannot be that wildly different. Even with the backwards compatibility stuff on the Xbox One, it was very much made public that it's a developers say yes, and it's a switch, and it's done like that. It's really easy. I don't see why they're going, no, well, just buy that console then. It doesn't seem very gamer friendly.
It's definitely not, but I can tell you what Sony would say in regards to that, right? So famously, their hardware, the Evolution and the Cell chips, the PS2 chip and the PS3 chip, were a fucking nightmare to develop for, right? They were really very, very, very specifically proprietary to those consoles. They're not just... The fact is that Xbox's hardware has always been basically a computer in a box. Whereas those processors at the core of those systems were very bespoke. So actually, they would argue that, no, it would be a lot harder than what you're saying to actually easily emulate this sort of on a hardware level. Which is why when that PS3 first came out, it had a PS2 inside it, basically, to run the games back compat. So that was the original fact. And that's why it was so expensive, one of the reasons, and that's why they took it out. So it's like that they had to have the hardware inside for hardware emulation. They had both the chips. So that's how they did it originally.
That's not the only reason, though. I mean, part of it is down to their will to support it.
Oh no, absolutely. But I'm just telling you from their perspective. Yeah, they'd say.
There's some really weird anomalies. If you look at the early days of PlayStation Vita, they did some good work there in bringing out PlayStation 1 titles on the Vita, and they worked really well. But those titles were not cross-compatible on the proper home systems. So PS3, I think, could load them. PS4 couldn't, weirdly. So things that you'd think should be an easy fix, they just never seem to think it matters. And to me, it's you talked about their feeling that no one ever plays these games. That's not really the point for me. I think a lot of it is a value proposition when you choose a console to buy. And I'm looking at what Sony are doing now and withdrawing all these storefronts for their old hardware and thinking, should I buy some of those before they go? Or actually, is the best play to look at what's going to be disappearing and buy it on Xbox instead, because I know I'm going to be able to keep that? And surely it's not just me. There will be other people thinking, because we're still very early in this generation, is that going to inform buying decisions going forward?
Well, I mean, it
Xbox,
means
you can go back 3-4 generations without it being a problem.
What it means is at some point PS4 storefront will be turned off. You know, I mean, that is going to happen. If it's not going to happen until we have a PS6, but it will happen, right? So I think this is indicative of their strategy, and you've got to remember that this is the PSP, Vita, and PS3s were especially I think the PS3, the first sort of generation to really embrace digital distribution.
Yes.
So the fact is that they're turning off that support for that platform is obviously, just to be clear, and I feel like we haven't said it, so I really want to say it. If you've already purchased this game, you will still be able to re-download your games. It's not like you're going to lose them, the ones you've bought. So you're losing the ability to buy new content digitally on those platforms. Your old stuff is safe for now. So I who knows what that looks like in the future, but for now, you'll still be able to re-download PS3, PS Vita games. But for me, I love the Vita. I think it's one of the best handhelds ever made, and I would actually put it above many of the Nintendo handhelds in terms of the quality of the games that you got on there. The screen was incredible, the OLED screen, like, you know, the fact that you had these like PS3 quality graphics on a handheld is still like far beyond what we're getting from you know, the Nintendo's sort of handhelds. And, you know, it's difficult because the Switch is also a home console, so I don't really know where that stands. But yeah, for a dedicated handheld, blew me away. Loved that technology. And yeah, I'm definitely going to boot mine up and get on the store and see if there's anything there that specifically isn't available anywhere else that I haven't picked up, because I still turn on my Vita on a fairly regular basis. I mean, that's where I played P4 Golden, Persona 4 Golden, absolutely fell in love with that game. And there's loads of quality games on the Vita, absolutely tons of them. So yeah, I think it's very short-sighted, very anti-consumer, very anti-gamer. It just feels like they're not listening. Like Richard said, it's not necessarily about the support or like how much they're played. It's about having that history, having that library, bringing those games forward with you. Because even just browsing through, you know, you remember, and you know, it kicks off a memory. And it might be like, I remember playing Fallout 3. God, I loved that. I wonder should I pick up Fallout 4? So honestly, it's like it's also hamstringing their own ability to sell titles. So it's just bad on all fronts. Surely there's no redeeming feature for it.
Even if 4 people in the world take advantage of it, it still doesn't serve them any sort of purpose to deny the feature, because that's another point for those people, that small cadre of people who go, well, yeah, I want to play the remaster of Demon's Souls, but I also want to play this PlayStation 4 game. You know, but I can buy a PS5. And I can either sell my PS4 to enable me to buy a PS5, or I can. I don't have room in my entertainment centre, so I have to take down my PS4. You know, being able to go, I want to play Fallout 4. I'll just chuck it in my machine. That is just such a better way to do it. And Xbox taking advantage, and Sony seem to be just going the other direction for some reason.
It's just such weird timing as well, right? So it's like we're in a world right now where, you know, the demand for the PS5 far outstrips the availability of this hardware. So you've got these people that are still stuck on the last generation of hardware that want to move forward, and it's like, oh, by the way, that previous generation, we're turning that off. So it's just while it's not obviously impacting them, it's just strange to have, oh yeah, but we're not going to keep supporting these old guys. So, you know, at some point you better move forward, because if you don't, it's all getting switched off, and it's just nuts.
At some point, yes, these old storefronts have to be switched off, rebranded, or something, right?
But they don't. I mean, you say that, but they don't. You've only got to see what Microsoft is doing. They haven't touched 360.
They kind of do. They have touched it. They've completely rebuilt it and made it compatible with the current platform. That's what's happened. I think the difference is
so it evolved.
Put that work in. Yeah, but the old 360 storefront, as it was, is not what you purchase games through on the Xbox Series S.
No, but you can boot up. You could plug a 360 in and buy a game. Is what I'm saying. You could still do that, right? Yeah. So that, I mean, yes, the way you purchase them on the current hardware, because it's not like the whole 360 library has come forwards. You know, it's select titles, which they haven't actually done any new ones now in about a year. Hopefully they come back to that once, you know, the Series X is all chugging along and that we're out of the launch window. But yeah, you can still plug your 360 in and buy a game, right? So you could do that. It's still possible. And they've made no noises to turning it off. And I have to wonder that, you know, based on the reaction to the Sony news here, they'd be mad too, wouldn't they? At this point, like, you know, it's going to be a while off if they ever do.
If they had a storefront from the original Xbox, I could see them getting to the point of wanting to get to that to turn off. Something the PSP specifically, yeah, that's older than the PS3 and the Vita, I believe.
Yeah.
So turning that storefront off kind of makes a bit of sense. If it's only generated like $200 in revenue or something minuscule, that it makes sense for them not to be paying X amount in server infrastructure to be able to warrant having that store running on and that connection going, when they could be focusing that on the more up-to-date stuff. Why they're disconnecting PS3 and Vita, that's the bit that I think is a bit foolish.
So I guess I
don't get is the purchase side of it, because you said they're switching off the server facility. They're not, are they? Because you can still download the games.
Well,
you just can't buy them anymore.
Yep.
So what the argument is for not allowing you to do that when it's not a licensing issue? I mean, we've seen that on Xbox numerous times. Games have been delisted, even first-party stuff, like the fairly recent DLC for Forza Horizon 3. You can't buy anymore. It's gone already. So weird anomalies like that go for licensing reasons. But to just turn off the entire store, I don't. There must be a reason for it, but I just don't understand.
I guess it's also interesting in looking into this story. For example, the ability to buy the games digitally through a web browser has not been possible for some time now. So you've only been able to actually buy the Vita games and the PS3 games through the store on the hardware itself, and that you can't just go onto the PlayStation website, storefront, and buy them. I don't understand that as well, and it's like it all just speaks to their sort of lack of forward compatibility with these storefronts. Whereas, like, you go onto Xbox.com and you can buy 360 games, you can buy the original Xbox games that have been made back compat. There was a lot of that. I think the thing that you mentioned, the original Xbox, is like that was a time before digital storefronts.
Yeah.
It never had one. So
I was just using that as an example.
Yeah, and the PSP is awkward. The PSP was like mid PS3 gen, and it kind of then phased out, and then the Vita came in, and that became kind of late PS3 into PS4 gen. So it was like this weird straddling. So that, again, there's really no reason that I can think other than they just don't see the worth in it. They're just doing numbers. They're just saying, well, we're not seeing sales. This is a cost to us, however minimal, that we could save. Like, we're keeping this up and running. Well, what's the benefit? Well, this is the benefit. It looks like shit. Like, it looks really bad to your gamers and your consumers. But I think the problem is that everybody's so obsessed right now about getting a PS5. They're not. A lot of gamers, they're not going to be looking at this. They're not going to be caring about this. No. I mean, you've only got to see about how badly. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago with the idea of what did they call it? What did they call it on Xbox, where your games are just available going forwards onto new hardware, and how bad PS4. Smart delivery. Thank you. And how that complete lack of thought that's gone onto that in the PlayStation, what we've seen with PS5, and how the PS4 games you'll accidentally download a PS4 game or something, and you don't even realize which one you're getting, and it's like, well, why has none of that been thought out?
So Microsoft have made the job easier for them. They've put in the hard work, and now that store, it's future-proofed, isn't it? Whatever you buy, it seems to just, I don't know whether it's that simple, but it seems fairly simple that you just buy something and it'll carry forward perpetually.
Well, it's almost like they've streamlined it too much. One of the things I don't love is that you have to have, if you have an X or an S, and there is an X and S enhanced game, you have to have the enhanced version. I'd quite like to be able to choose to not have the enhanced version, but I'd rather have that simplicity and removal of functionality than the confusing mess that we seem to be seeing and people complaining about constantly on the PlayStation. And it all kind of connects, doesn't it? It's all about how they haven't got a plan, that they don't really have a strategy for how the older games are to be supported going forwards onto new hardware. They don't seem to care. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to, that it's just like anti-consumer, anti-gamer, and it's just not listening to what people want. But they're in the market-leading position. I guess they don't need to listen. But it'll bite them in the end. It always does.
Yeah.
True. Anything else, or should we move on? We got some more weird PlayStation news.
Go on.
Go on. So this is bizarre, right? A few weeks ago, or it might even be months ago, it was towards the start of the year, I guess, where we found out that Sony's MLB, which is the big flagship kind of, sim baseball game, and an equivalent to like FIFA is for football, has always been exclusive to PlayStation forever, basically. It's a PlayStation developed game. It's only on PlayStation hardware. Well, not anymore. This year's MLB is coming out on Xbox, and it's coming to Game Pass on day one.
makes no sense.
What is that? Like, what is going on?
It's a deal. That's what it is.
It's weird. It's weird enough that we're getting the game at all on Xbox, but on Game Pass, there's so much that needs to happen for that to work out. One, Xbox have got to obviously pay for that to be on the Game Pass service. I get that. It's a coup for them to be able to say, we've got a first-party PlayStation game for free on the Game Pass service. That's mad. But Sony have got to agree to it as well, right? What's in it for them? Why would they agree to that?
I told you, a deal.
All right, go
you
on.
let us have the show,
Elaborate.
and we won't make Starfield 6 months timed exclusive.
So that's what we think, is it? That's
it's
the equivalence, is it?
It's a logical possibility. You know what I mean? Maybe not that precise argument, but that kind of thing.
Well, I don't think this is going to be the last we see of first-party Sony games coming to Xbox. I really don't. I think if the deal is to do with the Bethesda buy and to retain some form of distribution of what could all become exclusive Xbox games, if Microsoft want to be dicks about it, if there's a deal in place there, then God of War, Horizon 2. What are we going to see on Xbox, you know?
It could very well have turned around and been, all right, you can keep Deathloop being a timed exclusive. We want the show.
It could have been small like that. That's a much smaller scale. That does make some sense, like that.
Yeah.
Has anyone started the Microsoft are buying PlayStation rumour yet? Because this is a catalyst for it.
Oh, I'd love that.
I mean, you know, one console future has often been threatened by the PC Master Race crowd. You know, the idea that a monopoly takes over and it ends up being this closed system of you get what you're given at the price we want, or else tough. I hate the idea of that. I love competition breeds improvement, and I think it's just this is all about Phil's vision of Game Pass, isn't it? This is all about this library of and branded library of games that are not going to be only sat on a console owned by Microsoft. And I think surely he wants Game Pass on PlayStation. I mean, I just feel like that would be it, wouldn't it? It'd be like if you could get Game Pass onto a PlayStation and say, look, here's a subscription service for Microsoft's Game Pass, you've won, haven't you? I mean, you just sit back then and just be like, there's no more to do.
I don't want that to happen, really. Like you say, the competition is good, and being an Xbox owner for the past few years has been really good because they've been chasing the lead. And we would not have a lot of the stuff that we've got. I don't think Game Pass would be as good. I don't think we would have backwards compatibility. I think the pricing that we've seen on the consoles has been pretty good, considering the
very good
Series X can do.
The Series S's price, for example, incredible.
The S as well, I mean, it's priced really aggressively. We wouldn't be seeing that if they were in a leading position. So I kind of want them to still be hungry for more and need to be able to fight for our attention. So things like this do worry me a little bit as well.
I think, Phil, combined with Satya Nadel's kind of very aggressive reign at the top of Microsoft, has really shaken up their company, and they've really changed a lot of about Microsoft and how it approaches many. We've got another news story coming up. Many new business sectors and areas, and I think, it's become the brand, the service. It doesn't need to be the hardware, and I think that would be kind of like, you still have PlayStation, right? You still have exclusives, but it's all about you think about it from Phil Spencer and Microsoft's perspective, it's like getting Xbox games and Xbox branding out to more people. Then it's about getting Game Pass in places that it isn't, rather than buying PlayStation or buying Sony or whatever. They don't need to do that if you can put your branding on their hardware. And I just can't wait to see Deathloop, Xbox Studios game, that opening splash that's going to land. That's going to be mad. I can't. And then vice versa, we're going to have MLB game on Game Pass like this summer, basically around the same time as Deathloop, and then we're going to have PlayStation. I think it's Santa Monica Studio. So it's like that's crazy. It's just like what is gaming right now? Like, we used to have such clear battle lines. The console wars. It was all very obvious. You were Microsoft, you were Sony, you were Nintendo, or going back, you were Sega. Now it's just like everybody's got a Switch and then something else. And it's just, it's crazy. And yeah, by the way, I just should say, welcome, Podcast Cat. Hello, Arthur. He can't resist coming and lie on you now, it seems, for a podcast. Doesn't matter what time of day, he has to come and sit on his dad. It's absolutely adorable. So let's touch on this next news story. I'm wondering if we can have a little chat around this. This is an interesting one. So Microsoft had just won a $21 billion contract with the US Army to give their soldiers HoloLens sort of enabled hardware to do things like integrated thermal vision and a heads-up display that would include things like a crosshair. So basically, they're turning it into the Master Chief, which is kind of insane and awesome and terrifying.
Scary.
And, yeah, no, I was getting there too. Don't worry. I mean, look. So this is what me and Richard pre-recording had a little bit of a political debate about armies and conflict and technology. And are they good guys? Are they bad guys and stuff? And it's kind of like, you know, our socialist ideals coming out a little bit in that forefront. But at the end of the day, military hardware has always driven technological development. That's always been the case since the dawn of time. So I can't say it surprises me that, you know, they're looking at making warfare easier for their soldiers. They've already got things like, you know, Xbox controllers flying drone strikes and stuff. And, you know, I think they've got tanks as well that use Xbox controllers as their interface as well in the army. So Microsoft are big in military tech. They're kind of like the Stark Industries of the real world. Like, these guys do nice stuff and do fun stuff, but then they also do stuff that helps kill people. So it's like, okay.
Imagine you got stick drift in a tank.
That'd be awkward, wouldn't it? You'd only correct it. God,
Yeah.
that'd be a right pain in the butt. I bet they just replace it. But have another one. Yeah, just chuck that one out the door.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhere in Iraq. There's loads of like old beaten up Xbox controllers, and it's like, where did they come from? Tanks. Oh shit. Okay. But like, yeah. I mean, what do you guys think about this? This like military tech. I'm quite into this stuff. You know, from historical perspective and also special forces operatives and stuff today. It's a bit of an interest of mine. So I find all this kind of stuff fascinating. The basically the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter becoming real, you know, which is what this is. And
I find it interesting mostly that the Microsoft employees are going, what? No, we don't want this.
yeah, so the story I linked to when they did the original kind of like fact-finding research deal for a lot less money, with you know, there were people saying we were trying to make a gaming device. You know, we weren't trying to make a device to help help people kill people. That's not what we're about. That's not what we signed up for. But at the end of the day, you invent something for a corporation. You make, you know, the corporation owns it.
HoloLens has got it's not just gaming. HoloLens has got all sorts of real life applications, from helping you do the plumbing to doing surgery, all sorts of things. But yeah, by and large, helpful things, not necessarily warfare.
But I mean, look, if you're a soldier, you know, defending your nation's interests in some form, you know, around the world, or you know, foreign or domestic, and it's a case of, you'd probably find that helpful, wouldn't you? I mean, this might help you save the guy next to you's life, or the civilians over there you're trying to protect. So it's
I'm not talking down what they do at all, but
it's hard though.
You can understand how someone might feel about their work being used in that sort of arena. Yeah,
it would probably come as a shock to those engineers and to those software developers that have worked on it, and then all of a sudden you hear, oh, they're pitching to the army. What now? Yeah. I guess. I mean, there's
a gaming piece of tech, not a gun piece of tech. What?
But you'd also have to be pretty naive to not see the real world implications of this technology. I mean, it's an obvious thing that it could be used for. I mean, it must have seemed very obvious to Microsoft, because they took it to the army as a concept years ago, and you know, you'd have to be pretty naive working in dev to not realize that there was something that could be used for. Yeah, so
they just need to get working on those set phasers to stun things, and then it's fine then, isn't it? Get rid of the bullets.
Less lethal. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the Cyberpunk portion of the show now. Talking about future tech and you know, next HoloLens will just be plugged directly into your retina, so you won't even need a device. You know, there's your Cyberpunk segue. So this is some weird stuff. So in the last week, CD Projekt Red have come out on a couple of things. They've said, first of all, that they're no longer making a standalone multiplayer Cyberpunk 2077 experience, and I never realized it even was meant to be standalone. I always thought it was just that they were doing a multiplayer something which they've not really gone into for the game. Great, cool, but then off the back of that, they've also said, oh, we're restructuring the studio so we can develop multiple AAA projects at the same time. So we made a bunch of money off of your people buying this game that you didn't realize it was broken. So cheers. So what we're going to do is make loads more other stuff.
This concerns me quite a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It's the second story specific. The first one, whatever. A game I haven't bought, doesn't get content. Oh no. It's the second one where they're going, yeah, we developed Cyberpunk so well, we're going to develop multiple things at the same time.
I know. And for so long as well. They developed Cyberpunk on its own over, 7 years?
It was a while.
And now they're going to say, yeah, we're going to do multiple AAA titles. No, it's not going to work.
It does seem like a weird time to announce this. Like,
what would you want any of the loyalty from the fans yet in their community?
None.
The patch we were meant to have last month, we haven't had.
No, it came out. It came out just before the end of the month. Yeah.
Oh, literally skin of their teeth.
A couple of days by it. Yeah, it came out, and it's done some stuff. But it's still fundamentally the same game. I had a go on it, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. I can see the police spawning a bit more realistically now, and when you get a wanted level and stuff like that, and the driving feels a little less gimped, but still loads of issues in there. I mean, that's the thing. It's like to come out and say, oh, well, we're gonna be like staffing up and splitting teams and stuff, and it's just like, yeah, but you're not even fixed Cyberpunk yet, guys. Do you not want to sort that out first? I mean, like,
sure that's not what they're talking about, because they've said multiple AAA projects. That could just mean the patches for Cyberpunk.
Yeah, so there was another story as well, which was I didn't maybe mention it because I know neither of you guys would care, but there was like a leak of the DLC names that are coming for the game and stuff, and it was some implications to what that was, and it was like, whatever, when that comes, we'll talk about it, but. So basically the one studio I imagine will be Cyberpunk and its ongoing support and fixes, and the other one will be The Witcher 4, which is what they're also working on.
A seriously good game.
Oh God, that was did you even get that, Richard? You don't know Witcher that well, do you? So
I was enjoying your pain.
Seriously, yeah, man, that was a stretch. That was bad, but yeah, look, good luck to them. It's not like I think they set out to make a broken game. They were, especially the developers, right? So up top, they had to release, right? So they released when they released, but no, very naive to think the game was in a shippable state at that point. But there you go. I suppose that's the way it was. But let's move on to a story that Rob might be more excited about. It's a couple of Destiny stories. So, Rob, why don't you just go through these and...
Okay. First one, Bungie has announced that they're working on a new secret world in parallel with Destiny that's meant to be coming out in 4 years' time. This, to me, just sounds like a separate franchise.
Yes, it won't be Destiny.
It's something we've been expecting for a long time now. They got a massive investment from NetEase in China, so this is probably where this is going. I have absolutely no doubt about that one. It's been a long time coming. Essentially, this is of no great surprise, in all honesty.
Well, they just announced the same thing Cyberpunk just announced, didn't they? That they were splitting up the team, they're diversifying so they can develop multiple big projects at the same time rather than focusing just on Destiny. So they basically did the same thing that CG Projekt Red did, but a couple of months ago, I think that story came out. Yeah. So, yes, good news, though. Should we speculate wildly based on no information? Or are you...
Yeah. No, I'm going to guess.
Go on,
I'm going to guess they're working on Halo Infinite.
Did you see the April Fools? Did you see the April Fools that caught out Kotaku on Halo Infinite, where they posted that it had been cancelled because they believed some tiny little Twitter account was talking the truth, and then they had to take it back straight away afterwards. They were like, "How did we get caught on this? It's so stupid." It's like, you idiots. I still think we're getting that this year, but we'll see, won't we? But you think it's Halo Infinite, but for like 6 years from now?
Yeah, I think Microsoft have binned it off. They'll get Bungie in to do it in 4 years' time.
I mean, weirder things have happened in the last couple of years in gaming, haven't they? With purchases, acquisitions, and deals. So that doesn't even seem that unlikely at this point. I could totally see Bungie working on Halo again. Totally. 100%. Why not? At this point, why not?
Because they left that franchise behind after finishing telling its story. and don't want to go back and retread it, which is what they've turned around and said.
Buku money, man. Buku
If
cash.
Microsoft had been the people who gave them a massive investment, big yawn, then yeah, 100%, it's a possibility. This is a game coming
It's
from
not
China.
serious. Yes, I am joking.
Yeah, but that's the
It's
thing. I
never-
wish it had been Microsoft and not NetEase personally. But there you go. It's like,
I
yeah, it's
wonder what they'll do. 'Cause
probably some
they've-
free-to-play MMO bullshit if it's a Chinese investment. Just saying. It's
Not
kind
like
of-
Destiny's
in
a
terms of
free to play
tone, though,
Wasn't
because Destiny, as much as they wanted to get away from Halo, they didn't walk very far, did they?
I like that. Yeah, they just went round the block, halfway
Yeah.
round the block, kind of thing. They didn't go across town, did they? They just sort of stayed very adjacent. First-person shooter, sci-fi setting, grim dark world, all that sort of stuff. Alien races. Yeah. Not wrong. You're not wrong. They do what they do very well. So my thinking would be actually that Bungie they'd want to do something completely different. That they've probably got quite a few developers there that would love to work on an entirely different concept that's not a first-person shooter, for example, and takes a very fresh direction. So if we're going to base it on nothing, I can imagine developers that have been doing the same thing for a very long time, but they want to do different stuff. So that would be my guess. So I'm going to go with I'd go with like third-person open world fantasy RPG. There you go.
I'm thinking PlayStation style third-person
butt.
action adventure.
Oh, well, like a Tomb
Which
Raider or something, or an Uncharted.
Yeah. Something like
Solid. High production value. Really polished and fancy.
I think for me, I'm going to move on to the next story.
Go on then.
Because now my lap is free, thank God for that.
Quite a warm day as well, so just, toaster on your balls, mate. Yeah.
Lovely. That's quite not how I would phrase it to the internet. Thank you, Ben.
Hello. Next story, right? Come on.
Yes, next story. Bungie recently have apparently held a community summit. They did this a couple of years ago when they were essentially in crisis situations with the original launch of Destiny 2, when negative feedback had swelled to such a point where everyone was just fucking off from Destiny 2.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a bad time.
Yes, it was a very bad time.
Mm-hmm.
They held a summit. They invited like the major content creators, like the big names like Datto, all of the really, really big ones. I think Esoteric were in there as well, all sorts, to get their views on the game, their takes on the problems, how to fix it, pitch some ideas to that set of community creators that were like, okay, this is the plan that we have at the moment. What do you think? What sort of is working, what isn't working, that sort of thing. And apparently they've done it again.
We have no information though, do we? There's
we've got zero out of this.
They're all NDAs.
All under NDAs.
Yeah.
Non-disclosure agreements for the people who may not know the acronym. So we've heard rumours that such a thing has happened, but we don't know anything about it at all. We probably won't for another year. Because there'll be long NDAs.
I think why it's worth mentioning that this has happened at all is because obviously the game is in a much, much, much better place than it was at the last one a couple of years ago, like you were talking about after the launch. And I think they've made a lot of very positive strides. For example, I just hit 100 on this battle pass, as you were, this season. First time I've ever done that. I really enjoyed this season of content, like the replayability of the battlegrounds. I think they've really, and yet they were fun and engaging and combat heavy, which is why, what's the best thing about Destiny? Gunplay, right? So double down on the freaking gunplay, not fucking platforming or something ridiculous, which I hate in that game. But like, they get it. They seem to understand the game at the moment. Like, there's still some balanced stuff, and there's still, I think, some development to do, some subclasses and things like that. But I'm hoping this one is a lot more like fresh ideas and directions, and like, I really hope they're going to be quite ambitious with where the game goes forwards now that they're in a pretty strong place. Obviously, they just walked back some stuff, with the sunsetting of guns and stuff, or they've sunsetting, as we talked about a few months ago. And it's like, that's not the best look, but it does show they're listening, and it does show that they are open to feedback.
This is the key thing. There was a content creator that was apparently part of this called Cool Guy. And he reaffirmed that Destiny's in full stride. This is a direct quote that I'm actually reading out, because Destiny's in full stride and we've got a lot to look forward to, Guardians. I won't talk specifics, probably because he can't, but I can tell you I was floored in a good way. Based on yesterday, they are absolutely listening and doing lots of doing. So that implies they've listened. They're frequently active on like the Destiny subreddits, all that sort of stuff. So they're clearly aware of the community's view and opinion, and they're trying to take action. Yeah. This only means I'm optimistic about Destiny because they've realised, okay, the game's not perfect. What can we do? Rather than sit in a room and have a think tank, what does the people who play this game think? Let's go and ask them.
Yeah, so, it's the hardest thing, right? It's the hardest thing in the world to have a game as a service. You need to have artistic, creative direction, ambition, and a target, but you also need to listen to feedback. But you can't be ruled by feedback and by everything the player says or the consumer says. You also need to stick to your guns over what your idea is for this, because at the end of the day, this is a creative, product that you are shepherding, right? And you have made. So if you just did everything players wanted, you'd probably make a monster that was a pile of shit, right? So you've got to. It's so hard. I can't even begin to imagine how they would do that, like, effectively. What was that, Rich?
Like Ubisoft do.
What do you mean?
Well, most of their projects are sort of heavily focus tested anodyne messes, aren't they? Just loads of stuff.
I mean, that's almost like a different thing, isn't it? Because if you're talking about playtest feedback, because then what you're saying is they shave all the edges off, so they remove anything that makes it stand out, and it becomes kind of generic from that.
Exactly.
Whereas the other way you could go is if you listen to every idea, you end off like having all these spikes in all these crazy different directions. If you think, I want guns to do this and levels to be like that, and then you end up none of it works because it doesn't make sense as a cohesive whole. So you've got different issues. And I guess the other thing with the Ubisoft products is not really a game as a service. While they do have live elements, unlike Destiny, which is always evolving and shaped around the community, and that engagement, they're still single player experiences at Ubisoft for the most part. So it's a different but similar problem. But yeah, both have their own pitfalls. I think it should be more. I think the industry as a whole should stick to its creative guns stronger. Like you look at the director's cut ending of Mass Effect 3, which is the first time I ever saw that huge impact of player feedback on a creative vision. Now, you might not like a creative vision, but you should respect it. And I think that's the fact that you can now go back and change things as sort of impactful as the whole ending of a trilogy based on players going, oh, I didn't like it. It's just like, that's not...
I think they
that
were
annoys
a
me.
bit more vociferous than, oh, I didn't like it. I think they were a little bit more outspoken.
Super pissed at the time. I don't know if you remember all of that, but that was a crazy time. That was mad. I think it's a really hard balance to strike, so I have a lot of respect for them to even attempt it. So good luck, Bungie. Can't wait to see what you do.
They realise that their game lives and dies on the people that play it because they've experienced game death. Because Destiny 2 in the original first year was about that far away.
Yeah, it got real small. Player base shrunk to nothing. Yeah, it was very, very bad.
So they've come super close to this whole thing falling apart. And considering how they have, a further 4-year plan, I think, just for this story, there's a whole raft of stuff going on here. So it's going to be good. I'm optimistic, but I'm never really not because crossplay's coming in the autumn, and that's the important.
That better happen. Yes. Right. So let's wrap up the news here on a little roundup of the free games you're getting this month from PlayStation, Xbox in Xbox Live Gold or Xbox whatever they're calling it now, Network Gold special up your bum offering. I don't know. They keep rebranding, and then PlayStation Plus. Yeah, that's why I work in marketing. No, I don't work in marketing. Right. Should we go PlayStation or Xbox first? PlayStation or Xbox?
Let's do PlayStation first.
Because it's the good
PlayStation's more interesting, yeah.
Because it's proper games. Right, so amazingly, right, first of all, you've got Oddworld Soulstorm launching into PlayStation Plus this month, which is huge, right? That is
a coup. That's a good cat.
What's it? Other Outworld? What is it called? Netherworld? What's the name of... It's Oddworld. I literally said that, didn't I? I did say Oddworld,
yes.
Right. Yeah. So Oddworld... Is it Lorne Lanning? Is it like the creator? God, what a pull.
Yeah.
That's huge that they're doing that for PS5, coming out, straight out, brand new. Kind of like, that's almost Game Pass level of coup to get that for your Plus subscriptions. So that's massive. Yeah. And then we're getting Days Gone, which was the open world zombie, pretty terrible, bad game that I could not get into. But it's still a big game. Sony Bend made it, first party, big release, and then we've got Zombie Army 4 Dead War, which I've nearly bought like 6 times in various sales since it came out on Xbox, and I've never bought it. So the fact that it's on Plus again is tempting me for a quick Plus sub just to pick that up. Like I still haven't done that for Final Fantasy. I've got like days left. I need to do that.
Sugar.
Yeah,
to do that.
Yeah, pro tip. I'm glad I reminded you.
Yeah.
But that's some big games, right? Obviously, it's less games now. They don't do the Vita, they don't do the PS4 like PS3 games like they used to. Now it's just PS4 and PS5. But when they're of this quality, like that's impressive. Like they're very much aware. Obviously, they've just launched new hardware that doesn't have a huge amount of games on it, and they're doing this to definitely try and support it. Yeah, Xbox not quite following the same strategy. So before I go to Xbox, did you guys want to touch on any of that or?
Yeah, just on Days Gone. I'm the PS5 owner of the group, aren't I? You haven't got one yet.
Not been able to get one yet.
Days Gone is already in the PS Plus collection if you have a PS5.
Oh, it's one of those games. There was like that weird thing you could get. Yeah, so that's not even that great for you.
Of like 15, 20 games, PS4 games that you get if you buy an Xbox. If you buy a PlayStation 5, and that is on the list. So for me, already got it. So this is apart from Soulstorm being a big deal, not that great a month for PlayStation Plus for me.
Fair enough. Zombie Army's meant to be good, by the way. Zombie Army's meant to be good. It's good fun, supposedly.
I've not played the others, so
you don't need to.
Okay.
You don't need to at all.
I think they're not plot heavy.
It's called Zombie Army. I'm going to guess no.
Yeah. So the Zombie Army 1, 2, and 3, which was released as ZAT, the Zombie Army Trilogy on Xbox One, it's basically a mod for Sniper Elite, but just released by Rebellion. So this is like, to be honest, 4 is their first proper game in the series because ZAT were basically mods that they packaged together and sold for
maybe I'll try that
budget.
But I wonder if this PlayStation Collection thing, whether they'll just start cycling those titles in as their monthly games and double dipping on them, which is a bit of a cheat, isn't it? Really,
it is.
That is the point.
Oh, I didn't catch all of that, but I'm kind of glad I didn't. So that's for the best. Right, Xbox.
Xbox is offering on the Xbox
Rob's gonna do it.
S and Xbox One. They are doing Vikings, Wolves of Midgard, which appears to be some sort of top-down Diablo-esque thing.
Exactly what it is, Diablo ripoff. Yep, Vikings.
And of course, the highly sought-after Truck Racing Championship.
Oh.
I mean, I think that's coming out on that date, on the 16th. I don't think that's out already, so I think that's a new game. I love how the MSRP is $59.99 USD, which I would be very surprised if that game ever was that price. But I don't know. Maybe it's going to be amazing. I like racing games. I will check it out and tell you about it at some point in the future.
Wonderful. And for the Xbox 360 level, which is compatible with newer consoles, of course, we have Dark Void.
Have you ever partook, Rob?
Yes, I quite enjoyed it.
Dark Void. Wow, cool.
You are legitimately surprised I played a game you asked me about.
I am surprised, yes.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I don't think I ever completed it, but I got about half to 2/3 through.
It's
quite enjoyed.
It's sort of the Gears of War era, isn't it? Where everything's brown and grey. I remember it being another brown and grey game.
I never played it.
For a flying game, it required lots of cover shooting.
Oh, was that the one where you could you were in cover shooting, but on a wall, a wall? So you were like going up a building, but in cover.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
It looks like the Rocketeer sort of vibe, doesn't it?
Yes, but grimdark, because every game in that generation was grimdark.
But it has
Rocketeer. It has what? Sorry,
so it's fine. It has Nikola Tesla in it, so it's fine.
I do remember this game.
The other one is Hardcore Uprising,
which is a Contra spin-off.
Yeah,
which is like what? Why? What? So don't know anything about that one.
It's some games.
It's some games. You can't
say that there are not games, and there are 4 as opposed to 3, which is 1 bigger. We can confirm here on Experience Kills, 4 is bigger than 3.
Yes, and also it's a variety of genres. So Diablo RPG, racing game, third-person action, and whatever the Uprising game is. I really have no knowledge of that game. I'm guessing if it's like Contra, it's probably 2D side-scrolling shooter.
Bullet hell type thing by the looks of it.
Oh, it does look like that. I haven't even looked at screenshots. Okay, cool. I mean, they're at least diverse this month. Like, these are more obscure than I think you sometimes get, which means probably less people already have them in their library, which is not a bad thing. I think Vikings and Dark Void are already, because we're start of April, they're already available and stuff. I don't think Plus is available yet. That usually is like the first week into the month for PlayStation. But yeah, I mean, Vikings was one of those ones I always kind of like, again, nearly bought, nearly looked at, thought, I quite like those Diablo style games, but I've played a lot of them at this point. It's weird. For a genre that was underserved at the beginning of the Xbox One generation, there's now a crap ton of games like that on the Xbox One. Like all the Van Helsing games, the Victor Vran games. Like there's absolutely loads of top-down isometric action RPGs on Xbox One. So I have no idea if this is a good one or not. But maybe we'll check it out, I don't know, and tell you guys if it's shit or not. But yeah, that's... I mean, this is a little bit less clear-cut. I guess I would have gone immediately towards PlayStation as being the better month, but after what Richard told us about Days Gone, it's less of a kind of impressive month, I guess, for them.
I think instead of being like that and that, like one clearly above the other, I realised to an auditory audience saying like that is a bit pointless.
His hands are quite close together. Now they are closer.
Instead of it being like one's at like 60% favour, one's at 40%, I think it's closer to 55-45. It's as to which one's better. I think PlayStation probably win a direct comparison because they've got a game that's probably more interesting.
Definitely win. It's a new next-gen game that looks pretty cool. So even if it was just that one game, I think they would be doing better.
Yeah, and it's a coup because it is that Game Pass style of brand new, free, straight away. So I give them props for doing that. Right. Shall we talk about Game Pass? Let's get into Game Pass Club. Now, Game Pass Club, we decided on Spiritfarers about a week and a bit ago. Indie game about loss and very emotional and sad. It's a bit of a farming game as well on a boat, but then it's about like delivering these spirits to their final resting places, and it's beautiful and evocative and
heartfelt.
Yeah, and it's good. It's really good. And I think we all played some. And then and then Outriders came out. And on April 1st. And I didn't think there'd be enough time for us to play this and talk about it. Oh, but we went hard. Like, I know I have gone really hard.
I realised the Easter weekend was this weekend, which suddenly meant an extra day off. So, I know, because Ben and I work together. We work in the same office. So Ben, I think, took annual leave, and then he was playing Outriders and hearing good things. I spent most of my Saturday on it. Instead, which is what I'm going to be doing at the end of this podcast.
I'm hooked.
Playing Outriders.
I'm freaking hooked right now. I didn't touch the demo, and I was going to, but then I heard it was coming to Game Pass, so I didn't bother. Ooh. I kind of wish I had though, because I would have done some pre-farming on the demo. Now I'd have been more ready. So we all played together as well, which doesn't happen very often. We actually put a good 4 or 5 hours, I think it was, of multiplayer on the other day. Was it Saturday? We did that yesterday.
Yeah.
God, time. What is time? Yeah, I mean, I'm already 2/3 of the way through to the level cap. I'm at level 20 now. I'm all on epics. I'm not epics legendaries. I'm all purple on my build. I'm loving it. It came at the perfect time because Destiny, I just reached 100 in the pass. The season pass, there's not much more to do. The story is finished for this season. So it's could not be a better time to pick up another loot shooter. And it's this is good, man. It's it's corny, and I'm playing as a chick on my main character, and I think a voice acting is good. Where do we want to start? Do we want to talk about because I've got so many thoughts here, and I'm ready to really get into this. So do we want to talk about what kind of game it is? Give it an overview. Who wants to do that? Richard's good at that. Richard, tell us about the basics of what Outriders is. Give us the overview.
Well, initial impressions are it feels very Gears of War. So it's got that cover mechanic that you'll be familiar with. Even though in the trailers it will tell you cover is not really what the game is going for. It encourages you to be far more aggressive than that. But certainly in the opening stages, cover is kind of where it's at, isn't it? Before you get any good weapons or powers. It's...
What is it though? Is it third person?
Well, yeah, that's
take
Gears,
it right back. Yeah, I know, but some people... Rob's probably never played Gears. So
I've played Gears, it's like them all.
I think it's a lot better than... I'm enjoying it a lot more.
It's another level. It's actually really good. Comparable with Destiny for me, Outriders. So it's the third person, over-the-shoulder camera, kind of a mix between Gears of War and Borderlands and I can hear Ben twitching in
no,
pain.
it's like a good Borderlands. Yeah.
That's me twitching in pain. But it's got a combination of wacky guns doing wacky stuff, especially when you get to legendaries and different perks on guns, and you have special powers and abilities. So there are 4 different classes in the game, of which you play as one. I'm playing as the Pyromancer. Ben, you're playing as what again? Remind me.
I can't remember what it's called. It's not got a cool sounding name, like Pyromancer, Technomancer, Trickster, and whatever I am. I will look it up while you talk, and I'll
Ben. And Richard is doing Technomancer. Each of them focus on. I quite like the fact that each of them focus on recovering health in a different way. So obviously, as you get up close to enemies, you end up taking damage. Ben's class relies on being
Devastator.
Of course. He relies on dealing damage up close to recover his own health. I rely on things dying that are on fire, because Pyromancer, I like fire. And I believe Richard, he just passively regens over time.
Sounds like Richard is very passive. Yeah,
I am fairly passive. I think the idea of my class is to just get health by shooting things, because I'm a range character, so the further away I am killing stuff, the more health I get, I believe.
So I'm at that point where I'm actually starting to roll new character classes. I actually started a Technomancer earlier just to get a feel for all the characters. I really like it. Technomancer's cool as hell. The powers are awesome. Like you have a conventional grenade, which I thought was weird that the other classes didn't have a grenade. So Technomancer actually has a grenade, which is like, oh, that's nice. I like that. And then you've got this cool missile barrage thing, and you've got like what's it, like a cryo turret? That's probably the one I like the least. I probably would change that out when I got more unlocks and stuff like that. But,
well, I've just got a new gun that freezes enemies, so my cryo turret is almost redundant now. I'm going to switch that out for a health boost perk for you guys.
I mean, to be fair, so in the description, the Technomancer is described as a support class. So the idea that you're freezing dudes so that other enemies can, have time to, other characters can deal with them, makes a lot of sense. And so we all play quite a lot of single player, right? And I was already like really enjoying that. But when we came together, what we noticed, the main thing, oh man, the enemy density in these fights, I was blown away by how many enemies get on the screen at once. I was so impressed. So the visual style of the game is quite grimdark. It's quite, gnarly. The setup is that you're colonizing this planet and everything goes wrong and you get stuck in cryo and you come out of cryo and it's like the world is even worse and it's like we were all escaping Earth and Earth was shit and now we've brought our shit with us and it's like now we're at war with each other and it's just everybody's starving and everybody's shades of arsehole. There aren't really any good guys and it's just like
really unpleasant and obnoxious characters, aren't they?
But very intentionally. I think.
It's like if Grimdark had a bad mood and didn't recover from the bad mood.
It's like it is a bit much, but at time, as a setting. But if it wasn't, I think the actual writing and the character acting and the voice acting is surprisingly good. It's better than I thought it would be. Definitely better than it needs to be for a game like this. Because a loot shooter could get away with just, is there loot? Yes. Is there a lot of loot? Yes. That's fine. But no, actually, I really like I said, the female character set, her voice acting is really good. I did play some in my new character as the guy, and I do see what you mean. He is not great. So often as the case in these games, I've noticed the same thing happened with like Mass Effect and a bunch of others. Play it as a female character, Assassin's Creed as well. The last two, the female voice actors are so much more nuanced and interesting because the dudes basically get told to be Marcus Phoenix / Vin Diesel, and then that's what they all do, it would seem, in third-person games, and they're really uninventive in their delivery. But no, I really like the female's read on it. She's really good. I should look up who the actual voice actress is and give her props. I'll do that in a second, if possible. But yeah, I'm digging that, and the combination of the gunplay, the sort of the strategy with your powers, and then the strategies that involve now, as we're starting to see, working together, and how you can kind of assist each other to deal with this fucking loads of bad guys, and they don't drop easily, a lot of them as well, because the difficulty is also increased when you're playing with 3 players, and it's, the quality there's so much going on.
Also increases.
So the
quality of the reward, that goes up as well. So it's not just more hard for the sake of hard. It's very much the more people you play with, the better stuff you'll get.
The other thing I really like is the world tier system. So if you're familiar with Diablo 3, when you get to the end of that game, you have like these different world instances that will increase the difficulty of the game but give you higher rewards as well. And in this game, you get them right from the offset, and you can have it automatically upgrade you until you kind of reach a point. I got to about tier 7 where it's like solo, I'm struggling to like move past that into 8. It's like that's the hardest I can handle by myself. But I could see us like as a 3 going, you go higher, you go further, because it really does have an impact like when you're working together. The game is clearly, while single player works, man does it sing in multiplayer when there's three of you going, because it's just, it feels right. Like the visuals of these, I've just got to a point in single player where I'm literally doing trench warfare. I won't spoil the setting, but it's like a World War I trench situation where I have to push forward with my guys and like fight off the baddies on the other side. And my guys are basically nothings. They're like whatever. But alone, I had a good 40 enemies against me. I can only imagine what that's going to be like with the 3 of us. It's going to just be like, just enemies everywhere. And it's going to be intense and awesome and just... Yeah, it's so cool when you're in the whole thing. With the like powerful enemies, they have when they're doing their ability, you have these interrupt powers, so you can prevent them. So there's a whole strategy about countering when they're going to hit you with their power ups and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of systems at play here. Definitely, kind of like it feels like more systems than Destiny because because of the way the powers work so kind of closely together. I feel like there's actually more complexity to the combat puzzles in this game, which I really dig.
It also functions starkly differently from Destiny. They're both looter shooters, but with Outriders, you're meant to go back and replay story missions and do side missions and so on. With Destiny, you're very much meant to do specific activities and that sort of thing. Now, there isn't a PvP portion of Outriders.
I do know stuff gets unlocked at the end game. So there is gameplay that you don't see until you finish the story and complete the story and get to end game. I haven't got there yet. I believe there are replayable missions and strike type things. But I noticed when I was looking through the achievements, there's an achievement for getting so many kills in a certain game type. So I think there is stuff like that as well as just redoing the story stuff. Which I really like that you can do that, and that, you know, you have this story point menu at the main menu, and you can kind of skip through everything you've played so far and choose where to sort of spawn in at the world tier you want, and then it will populate the enemies, because once you just play through it, if you just go back to a location, the enemies are gone. It's depopulated. You've killed everyone, so that kind of makes sense. But if you want to refresh it, you can, and you can go back and face enemies at higher difficulties, and therefore farm rewards and farm drops and do all of that sort of side of the looter shooter. I really like that. It's really, you know, smart way of enabling that kind of gameplay. I can tell you can skip the tutorial, guys. If you roll a new character, you don't have to do all the prologue, which is nice.
How many characters can you roll?
It seemed like a big list. Like it seemed like there was space for like loads on that actual menu. I don't think there's a particular. It's going to be more than 4. Put it that way.
Good. That was my main thing, because the last thing you want is 3 slots for 4 classes, because that's okay. Thing is, the launch has not been super smooth, has it?
No.
So the first.
Do you want to touch on this?
Yeah, of course. I actually linked a story in the show notes for it, because they've acknowledged this. People Can Fly have said this isn't good enough. We're gonna look into this and why this happened, and we're obviously trying to fix it. It's still not perfect. Even today, playing during the day, I was having the odd issue as well. Kicked a dashboard a few times when I was trying to turn in a quest as well. It just seems like in general, like server like stuff like authentication issues, because the game saves almost constantly your current state. So as long as if you ever do anything, it basically, you pick up any loot, it saves. So if it can't communicate with the server to do that, it has real issues and it disconnects you, or it'll kick you all the way out to the dashboard on Xbox, which is a real shame, because when the game's up and running, it's dead smooth. The loads are incredibly fast, like especially on the it just flies on Xbox Series S and X. I don't know about other platforms, but it's incredible on those. But it's been rocky. I mean, the first day we tried to play, we couldn't, could we? Because or was it the second day? Because I'd been playing all day, no problems, and as soon as I tried to hook up with you guys, it just shattered the bed.
I think it was the Friday night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just would not work.
Yeah, it just didn't function. The second we were all available and all at the same time, we'd done like the mandatory tutorial section and it was a case of, right, let's link up. Okay, that bit works. Great, that works. Oh, and now everything's not working and everything's burning. Well, shit.
Yeah, just like lengthy login times that would often that's the worst thing, isn't it? If it's not working, you kind of want to know straight away, but it makes you wait before it goes no.
Yeah, a good few minutes, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you're sat there waiting, hoping, and then it's no. You're just like, for fuck's sake, if it's not working, just tell me, so I don't keep wasting my time.
That's a case of People Can Fly, and people can't log in.
People can fly and servers can die. There you go. I hope you like that. Just off the top of the cuff there. But yeah, so I feel like people can fly blaming Square Enix a bit, the publisher, on this, and I don't really know what's at the bottom of it, but it's games as a you kind of accept it, don't you now, to a degree? Oh yeah, new game as a service, multiplayer online shooter thing's not working first week. They all don't. It's kind of what happens. And it's annoying because while we've accepted it, shouldn't you guys learn from that and not let that happen? Especially as, what was the last big game as a service games? Oh, Marvel's Avengers. Who published that? Square Enix. And they had huge problems with their first week as well with connectivity. It's like, guys, you just did this at the end of last year. Maybe just, I don't know, turn on a couple more servers? Like, what's going on? Sucks. Yeah, I've been rambling on this. You got anything more to add, guys? I really like it.
I do as well. Once we finish recording today, and we've gone our separate ways, I will be playing more Outriders. That is generally my plan today. I want to play some more and get going through the missions.
Yeah, I've done a bit more today. I've done another couple hours, and I'm finding it feels different. You've probably sort of covered this already, but it does feel different playing alone. I'm finding I'm much more defensive, and as a group of three, I've got the breathing room to just be much more aggressive and not just sit behind cover, but just run around the battlefield and make the most of the powers that I'm finding on the new weapons. So yeah, I think if you've got a choice, playing it with friends is the way to play it for sure.
Talk about powers on weapons. There is so much something you don't realize because you don't actually get the customization options, the configurable weapons and stuff until a bit into the game. But wow, you can really customize and spec out a build. To basically right now, the build I'm rolling on my all purple dude is completely focused on one power that I have, and it's all about giving that power. All the mods are into that, making it come as quick as possible, doing extra damage, making it have extra range and stuff like that, which is my earthquake power, which first power I got in the game, and it's so much bloody fun. I love it. And then beyond that, there's so many elements. There's I was only just started digging into it, but each weapon has different abilities. So it's like max health, regen on maybe extra damage, and you can also upgrade that. So that's upgradable by another resource, and it's so there's so much going on. And it's I had to keep stopping myself from maxing out stuff because I'm only at level 20. So I need to wait till the end game and I start getting the end game drops, and then really focusing down on the stuff I want for the builds that I like, and then maybe even thinking about different stuff for different builds depending on what class I'm playing with. You can totally see that there's going to be huge amounts of synchronicity and teamwork and stuff about when you want to really face the big bosses at the high world tiers, maybe trying to farm a specific exotic or something, so I don't call them is it called exotics in this? I can't remember what their top tier is in this. But gold drops, yeah. There's loads. There's so many levels of customization. It's far more like a Diablo in that regard than it is, say, a Destiny. There is a much more RPG feel to this with the builds and you've got all the skill points, and you've got huge amounts of choices in that, as well as different abilities which you can slot. So you can only carry 3 at once, but you can pick from a pool of I think 9, something like that, 9 or 10, and you can pick very specifically down as to what you want. So it feels much more like a big RPG in its builds, rather than just a shooter. So I think that's why I'm enjoying it so much, because there is so much flexibility and customization, and also it's hard in places, and it's challenging in a ways Destiny rarely is, especially in single player, especially through the story content. I mean, famously, everybody burnt through the Destiny 1 and 2 stories in 5 seconds flat. There was nothing there was no resistance, whereas this has got actual real challenge to it, and some depth to it and stuff. So hopefully they sort out all their server issues, and goddamn, the fact that this is a Game Pass game day one, it's got to be probably the Game Pass game I've connected with the most at this point, I think, and been pulled into the most straight away. Just really blown away by that, to the point where I was talking about buying it just because I don't want it leaving my library at any point. I'm already thinking about that. So yeah, crazy. Love it.
You're muted, Richard.
Right, I've turned my mute off. I'm having weird sound problems, so I thought I'd mute it and see if that made any difference.
Are you just farting a lot?
No, you sound all Cylon-y.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, don't buy it yet, mate. Just wait till it's not in your library. You fool! You don't need to buy it. That's what you've got Game Pass for.
I know. I like buying things. I have a problem, it would seem. Right, should we talk about some of the other games we've been playing in the last week or two to wrap us up for the episode? Rob, you've not got anything in your list. Does that mean there's nothing else to add?
I have also been playing a new Minecraft mod.
Oh, that doesn't count.
Yes, it does. It's a video game, so stuff it. It's called Pixelmon. And it is essentially, it runs on a slightly older version of Minecraft, version 1.12, when we're on 1.16 at the moment. And it is Pokemon in Minecraft. So there are gyms, there are Pokemon randomly wandering around the world. It's really, really fun. I'm really enjoying it. So a friend of mine is going to set it up on his online server, and a different friend of mine and I are going to jump in and spend a bit of time going through. It's very good fun. Other than that, I've not been playing that much. I've not even been doing much Destiny because, like you said, the story content has kind of ended now, and I've mostly been dealing with this very little guy.
Pixelmon, is that right? Pixelmon?
Pixelmon, yes.
So when you say it's Pokemon, the Pokemon out in the environment, can you catch them? Do you...
Yeah. Fully like a Pokemon DS game, you choose a starter, and you level it up. There are Pokemon that just wander around. There are no Minecraft mobs like villagers or creepers, spiders, whatever. None of that at all. It's purely Pokemon that just wander around the overworld. In specific biomes, you'll get specific Pokemon.
And are they Pokemon you recognise? Like,
yeah, they're all 3D modelled.
But like, so it's a bit naughty, the mod then, because it's infringing on copyright and stuff.
They do say they don't own any of it or anything like that. And obviously Pixelmon exists, and Nintendo haven't sued them yet, so...
And Nintendo are famously litigious, so I feel like if they were gonna, they probably would have by now.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
So it's all community-made mod stuff. There are online servers you can join as well. And it's really good. I recently spawned in, and I found a gym that I'm trying to take down at the moment, but I'm having to train my Pokemon up. And, yeah, it's really good. I'm going to reset progress and start again with my friend Sven when we get set up on the online server. That's going to be really good because it'll be a private online server rather than jumping into one of the possible griefy ones, because I don't really fancy being griefed online. Thank you very much.
That's what I'm for.
Yeah, it's going to be really good fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll definitely devote some time to that. It's scratching that Pokemon itch, which is not.
I mean, you've got your own furry little Pokemon right there. Just
I do,
demanding
and
attention.
I bought him.
Oh, so cute. He's such a good boy. Lets you do all kinds of things to him. That sounds wrong, but I don't mean like that. Right. So in addition, I didn't mean to make it sound like that. I didn't. I just realised when I said it, it was like, and then I made it worse by saying I didn't mean it like that.
Ruined. Yeah. Thanks.
It's innocent, beautiful love. Oh, anyway. Right. So other than Outriders, I played a few games this week as well, and guess what? I've been streaming, guys. Yeah, live streams of Stellaris, Nova Drift, and Snowtopia. Now, I'd imagine by now everybody kind of knows about Stellaris. We've got a review of the console version of that, and it's been around for ages on PC already, so I won't drift into that too much. But I will, however, talk about Nova Drift, which is, I thought, was a really cool little game that's out in early access at the moment, which is this basically roguelike asteroids twin-stick shooter sort of space game, but it's all about, like, on the fly as you go through it, unlocking abilities and like customizing your build to survive as long as possible as increasing enemies attack you with various different types and bosses and stuff. It was colorful, it was challenging, it was fun to do. I lucked upon a really OP build in my second run and absolutely devastated. I got to like level 100 or something ridiculous on only my second run. I suspect I'll never get there again, so I probably won't ever bother playing again. But no, I'm going to be really curious to see how the game develops through early access, and I think it's well worth checking out if you're in the mood for sort of like an easy to grasp concept that's fun to play and engaging and has just enough kind of variety to keep you engaged and interested. I thought it was very well balanced, very well put together. And that's Nova Drift. And I also checked out Snowtopia, which is a tycoon game based around a ski resort setting, which is pretty much exactly as what you'd expect from a tycoon game in that setting. So you're putting out ski lifts, you're designing ski runs and stuff, like where people are going to ski down the mountain. You're building shops, you're building places for people to stay, chalets and stuff like that. Again, early access. I think it's got perfectly presentable, perfectly nice concept, easy to engage with, easy to play. Though I did have some issues trying to work out how to set particular runs of certain difficulties to tick off the sort of like requirements for certain level gates and stuff like that. But once I got the hang of that, it was easy enough. But it's one of those games that I could easily see myself sinking dozens of hours into without even trying, because tycoon games for me are basically addiction made manifest. So yeah, I just love games like that. Be it Theme Hospital or 2 Point Hospital, whatever the new modern version of that is, or Roller Coaster Tycoon, or in this case Snowtopia. So I had a really good time with that, and it's well worth. Both of those streams are available on archives on Twitch and on YouTube, and the Stellaris one as well. I'm going to basically do a lot more streaming, I think, going forwards. There's going to be a lot more of that. We'll still do produced two-headed video reviews as well, but now I've got the setup and the capability. Why not do quick looks at games I wouldn't necessarily look at or search for and stuff. These two games, for example, Nova Dip and Snowtopia, were codes that were sent to me that were unsolicited. So just from the developer or the publisher going, hey, do you want to check this out? So if I can give them a little bit of time and a little bit of exposure, especially when they're as fun as those two, happy to do it. So, Richard, what have you been playing?
I've been on my PlayStation a lot. So I've neglected my poor old Xbox for a few weeks. The Easter sale's on PlayStation as of this week.
Does it provide excellent savings?
Oh.
It's not your best work, Rob, but let's move through that. The sale itself is not great. In terms of PS5, there's nothing on there. I wasn't expecting there would be, to be honest, because there's still only a handful of games. So I was looking out for Demon's Souls remake, the Sackboy game potentially, and what else is there? There's not much else out, is there? Oh, Miles Morales. So one of those I was hoping would be on sale. None of them are, but I've managed to pick up Ghost of Tsushima for about 30 quid, which isn't bad, and that's had a PS5 update, so that's kind of my first PS5 game, if that counts. And that's a beautiful game. Looks really nice with
stunning.
The excellent frame rate. Just looks really good. It almost looks next gen. So I've not put too much time into that. I've put far more time, for some reason, into Tearaway, which has been on my backlog for about 5 years. But I finally cleared that off. So I've platinumed the Vita version and the PS4 version.
What the fuck?
In the past week. So
you're such a mark for 3D platformers.
I know. God. I love them, but
Such
they're off the list now.
I love that that game is so old.
It shows more evidence why Sony should not be shutting down their Vita store. There are current Vita players, which means there's an entire market for people to buy games on Vita.
It still stands up. It still looks good because of the papercraft style. I don't think that's ever going to really age. It just looks really nice. It's fun. Enjoyable little game. You're right. It's a real shame that they're shutting down the store, and people will lose access to stuff like that. Because timeless little game, lovely.
Okay,
that's all I've been playing.
That's all he's been playing. I was going to say, is there anything else to add there? But no, good on you for playing. I mean, I look forward to talking to you when you've played a bit more Ghost of Tsushima. One of the things that we kind of talked about it a little bit when we were playing Outriders, because there's a very obvious pathing system in Outriders to tell you exactly where to go and how to get to your next objective.
Yeah.
And we talked about good versions of that and bad versions of that. And Ghost of Tsushima's one, which uses the wind to indicate where you should go, has got to be the most beautiful version of that type of game mechanic I've seen in anything.
It's really elegant,
stunning.
For that it's a sort of period adventure, so feudal Japan sort of era, and you don't want too much HUD elements getting in the way of that, because it'll get all a bit Assassin's Creed, wouldn't it, and take you out of the experience. But I thought that was the most elegant solution I've seen yet to signposting.
Have you played enough to do any standoffs and stuff like that?
Yes.
The way that game combat works, and just traversal, and that world is just like this empty beauty. I mean, it's not a world overpopulated with stuff, but it's just the amount of times you'd stop and just look out over a cliff and look down at a forest or out to sea and over a mountain, and just oh my god, Stunning.
That's what I was going to say about the wind mechanic. It doesn't just tell you where to go. It's a really good excuse to show off the particle effects and all the leaves blowing around. It just looks lovely.
Have you played with the photo mode yet?
No.
It's the best photo mode in a game I've ever experienced, because you can change the time of day and the weather for every picture you take. So you can alter the world state like fundamentally to make the most gorgeous photographs. Like just stunning. Incredible.
No.
And kind of effortlessly as well. You just play around with it and you come out with something and it looks amazing. It's just like, oh my god, stunning.
You're right about the combat though. I mean, for what is, it might get more complex. I think you can unlock powers and stuff, can't you? It's one of those.
There are layers,
yeah. Initially, it feels quite Spartan in terms of the moves that you've got, but even with that simplicity, it feels distinct. It doesn't feel like other combat games of that ilk. It has its own rhythm and flow, and just the grace with which you can do your different moves and chain them together and do your different dodges. It just feels really smooth. Great.
I mean, it does do it goes a bit Assassin's Creed-y, like, you know, because the whole concept of the game is Ghost of Tsushima, so it's the idea of a samurai descending from honor to a place of just doing what he's got to do to survive, and to win. So he becomes a bit assassin-y, basically. But you don't have to play like that. So if you want to play, just walk into every outpost with a standoff, you know, and when you've upgraded the standoff, you can kill up to I think 3 or 4 enemies at once. So you go in, do these instant kill, half the enemies are dead, and then you just get into fights with everybody. You know, you counter attacks and slicing heads off, and just feels great.
The standoff feels much better than it should for what it is, because there's nothing to it, is there? But it's basically a quick draw mechanic. You hold triangle until the other guy flinches, and you've just got to release triangle first, and then you get the drop on him and carve his chest up a bit. So
it gets a bit more complicated because the enemies will do feints, so they look like they're going to come for you, but then they don't. So it's like, cool. And you have to be like, oh no, he wasn't. Oh shit! And then the worst thing is you get really penalised in standoff mode if you do attack and mistime it. I think you get like your health down to like you can only take 1 hit. So you have to be like really careful about like when they do that, and then they'll double feint and stuff, and like you, oh no, didn't quite mean it. Oh, I got you. It's like, you crafty Mongols. So you have to watch out for that. But no, it's a beautiful open world game. Really, well, you know, I talked about it quite a lot. Game of the year. So it's like I really, that game is an amazing game. And it's one of the reasons I'd love a PS5. I'd really love to see what that is like enhanced on the PS5. I imagine it's just gorgeous, just even more stunning.
Well, I don't know how it compares, but yeah, it's pretty flawless.
I mean, the load times on PS4 Pro are, I mean, we said Outriders is good. Like, this is the fastest loads in any game ever. Like, it's incredible considering it's an open world. I don't know how they do it. It's like mad tech, and that was just a PS4 Pro without any of the new storage enhancements that you get on a 5. So I can only imagine how quick it is now on a 5. It must have been like no loading screen at all, surely.
Yeah, I've not noticed anything. It's really, really zippy.
Wow.
It's good.
That's cool. Awesome. I think that brings us to the end of another podcast. And I have a feeling we might be talking about Outriders when we reconvene in 2 weeks again, once we've probably all reached end game and stuff like that. I look forward to coming back when we know a bit more about it at that point as well.
We need to figure out another game for Game Pass Club.
We do. I think we just do Spiritfarer because we'd already sort of started on it. So I think we do some more Spiritfarer in the next 2 weeks, and we'll come back and talk about Spiritfarer because it is a lovely game that I'd love to get into a bit more with you guys as well. So let's do that. Unless there's any other big releases that come out of nowhere, we'll keep an eye on it. I know there's been a few. I mean, I'd love to do Octopath Traveler, but that's a huge game. But it's a beautiful RPG, really, really good. If not, we'll hit with Spiritfarer, but we'll be back with something for Game Pass Club in a couple of weeks' time. I promise you that. But until then, please on YouTube give us a like and subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications when a new video pops up. That would be much appreciated. Obviously, we're now available content popping up on Twitch, which might be where you've watched this stream. So what is he doing there? Do you follow? You follow on Twitch, don't you? Is that
follow,
right?
Yeah.
Yes. Just follow us, and I think you can subscribe as well. I don't really know how that works or what that does.
I think there's another level of complexity to that, which I'm not sure you have available at the moment on our channel. I'm not sure. I know that's usually the cost model when you subscribe to people, which is generally not what we do.
We don't monetize. That's one of our things. We don't do that here So you can follow me at DIYE, you can follow Richard at Colonel Red, and you can follow Rob at Homeless Mr. Gibbs on Twitter. In addition, you can find us collectively at Experience Kills to keep you up to date with all our latest videos and streams and whatever else is going on, news and stuff that catches my eye. I'll often retweet on there as well. In addition, you can find this wonderful podcast as an audio version of this show as well, from anywhere a good podcast can be found, literally anywhere. And as I always promise, if you find somewhere you can't get it, let me know and I'll make that happen. I can do that. Happy to do that. I did that for Richard, for example. Sorry?
He has the power.
I have the power. Richard kept banging on about Acast, and it was like, I don't know what that is. But I made it happen. So it's on Acast now. If you use Acast, enjoy that. So yeah, let me know.
That's where I listen.
That's where I hope you listen back to all of them, including the ones you're in. I really hope so. That'd be super weird. I do that sometimes when it's a good show. I'm like, was it as good as I remember it being? And it's like, damn, yeah, it was. Shit, we are good. So yeah, until
damn, we're awesome.
God damn, let me pat myself on the back. Oh yeah, we rock. So I think that's everything, yeah, guys. So I want to go and play some more Outriders now. So I think we should wrap this up. Okay, so until next time, that's been Experience Kills episode 24. We'll be back with episode 25 next week. Proper milestone. How exciting! So see you all then. Bye.
Bye.